They asked for mercy, but Earth sent its warriors in the far reaches of the galaxy, a small coalition of worlds huddled together in fear. The Kyler Empire, a vast and relentless alien power, had already swallowed dozens of star systems. Their fleets moved like shadows across the void, leaving nothing but devastation behind. Cities burned, populations vanished, and entire cultures disappeared without a trace. Those who survived had learned one hard truth: resistance meant death. On a quiet planet called the Serra, the leaders of this coalition gathered in a darkened chamber. The air was heavy with tension. Holographic screens floated before them, showing the destruction the Empire had wrought. "We cannot last another cycle," said Ambassador Laren, his voice shaking. "Our fleets are scattered, our weapons cannot match theirs. If we stay silent, we die. If we resist, we die." Another voice broke in, calmer but weary. "Then we do what they do not expect. We ask for mercy. Not for victory, not for surrender, just mercy." It was a desperate plan. They knew the galaxy had mostly forgotten Earth. Humans were considered primitive, isolated on a harsh planet, barely surviving their own solar system's challenges. The Kyler Empire had never even bothered to study humans. But these worlds had hope, thin, fragile hope, that the humans might listen. A message was prepared, not a threat, not a plea for weapons. Just a simple broadcast sent across the void, carrying their story of fear, loss, and survival. "We are at the edge of extinction," the message said. "We ask only for mercy." Far away, orbiting a blue and green world, Earth's leaders received the transmission. The room was quiet as the images and voices played. Scientists, generals, and diplomats watched in disbelief. Humans had always looked at the stars with curiosity, imagining what other civilizations might be like. But no one expected to see desperation like this. Worlds had already fallen, yet some still survived. President Kale stepped forward. His face was calm, almost unreadable. "They ask for mercy," he said softly, "but we must remember we are not like them. We have survived because we adapt, we endure, we protect." No one spoke. They all understood. Earth was different. Earth had survived plagues, wars, disasters, and yet humans had grown stronger every time. They were underestimated, dismissed as fragile or primitive, but history had proven otherwise. Deep under the planet's surface, in hidden facilities scattered across oceans, mountains, and deserts, machines stirred to life. Long-forgotten fleets, built centuries ago but never deployed, began to awaken. Ships designed to survive storms in space, long voyages, and impossible conditions lit their engines. The humans who had trained to command them, soldiers, engineers, pilots, and tacticians, were called from their everyday lives. They gathered quietly, prepared in silence, ready to do what humans did best: face impossible odds and keep going. The galaxy did not yet know what Earth was capable of. The coalition expected little. "Maybe they will negotiate," one alien historian whispered. "Maybe they will listen." But Earth's response was brief and simple. "Mercy has a price, we are coming." No speeches, no threats, just a calm declaration. The first wave of ships left orbit, moving silently through the void. They carried hundreds of humans, trained for combat, survival, and strategy. But these humans were not like soldiers in other galactic empires. They were thinkers, inventors, and planners. They were engineers who could fix a broken ship mid-battle. They were medics who could save lives when all hope seemed lost. They were survivors from a harsh world who had learned that unity and persistence mattered more than brute force. Meanwhile, the coalition waited, unsure what to expect. "They cannot be serious," Laren said. "Humans, they are few. Their technology is primitive compared to the Kyler. They cannot stop us." Back on Earth, humans were not preparing for mercy. They were preparing for action, but carefully. Scouts and sensors mapped the Kyler-controlled regions. Small reconnaissance ships, barely visible even to alien sensors, began moving quietly, studying enemy movements. Humans understood the value of patience. They did not rush blindly into battle. They learned first. They planned second. And when the time came, they would strike with precision no one expected. As the first human fleets approached the border of occupied space, the Kyler Empire noticed them. Commanders on alien warships laughed when they saw the small, slow-moving human vessels. "They are afraid," they said. "They are trying to negotiate, and look, they are hiding too. Pathetic." But humans did not move out of fear. They moved out of strategy. Each ship carried a crew who had trained for years in simulations, harsh conditions, and improvisation. Humans had learned to endure extreme heat, cold, vacuum, and radiation. They had fought natural disasters on their home planet and survived. They had learned to rely on each other, no matter the circumstances. The first encounter occurred quietly. A small alien outpost, positioned on a minor planet, detected the approaching human fleet. It raised alarms, calling for reinforcements. But before anyone could respond, the human ships had already deployed drones to disable communication satellites and supply lines. The attack was not meant to destroy life. It was surgical, focused on crippling the Empire's ability to respond quickly. Alien officers were confused. "Why don't they attack in full force?" one demanded. "Why do they move so slowly?" "They are not afraid," another whispered. "They are calculating." The humans had learned that fear could be weaponized, but patience could be stronger. They did not rush. They observed. They analyzed. Every movement the Kyler made was noted, recorded, and used to predict the next step. By the time the Kyler realized what was happening, the humans had already disabled key outposts. Communications were jammed and the first supply lines were cut. The Empire had expected retreat. They had expected hesitation. They had expected fear. But humans were neither hesitant nor fearful. In the Coalition's secret chamber, Ambassador Laren watched the transmissions in disbelief. They are actually attacking," he said. "I thought humans were weak. I thought they would just talk." President Kale did not answer. He watched the feed silently, observing every move. Humans were striking with efficiency, precision, and discipline. They were not wasting resources on pointless destruction. They were dismantling the Kyler control system piece by piece, while minimizing loss of life whenever possible. On Earth, families watched from observation decks, not understanding the full danger, yet sensing the gravity of what was happening. "They are humans," said one teacher to her students. "Our brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers. They are showing the galaxy who we are." And the galaxy was beginning to notice. Alien media channels scrambled to cover the strange human tactics. Commentators debated endlessly. "How can this be?" one broadcast asked. "They have few ships, few soldiers, and yet they are stopping the Kyler advance. Are they hiding more weapons? Are they stronger than we thought?" The humans did not answer questions. They did not boast. They moved like the tide, calm, persistent, and unstoppable. Small units evacuated refugees from minor systems, protected them with whatever ships and defenses were available, and kept moving. The human sense of duty extended beyond battle. They were there to protect life, not just to fight. As days passed, the first alien casualties were captured. Officers and soldiers alike were surprised. Humans treated them with caution, but also with fairness. They interrogated only to gather information, and even then, violence was a last resort. Word spread among the Kyler soldiers that humans were not like any other enemy they had faced. Humans could endure more than they seemed capable of. They could heal faster. They could adapt. And most frightening of all, they were patient, unshakable, and united. At night, in quiet corners of human ships, soldiers spoke softly to one another. "Do you think they know what we are?" one asked. "Does it matter?" replied another. "We know that is enough." Back on the Sarah, the Coalition leaders began to hope. They had sent a message asking for mercy, expecting words of comfort or negotiation. Instead, humans had arrived not to beg, not to negotiate, but to act, to protect, to fight, to endure. And they had shown that even a small, underestimated species could change the tide of war. In orbit above Earth, President Kale watched the reports silently. The calm in his eyes hid the storm of planning inside his mind. Humans were stepping into the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians. Their methods were strange to other species. Their patience was unsettling. Their courage was extraordinary. The first human engagement would only be the beginning. The Kyler Empire had not yet realized that Earth's warriors were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had prepared for surrender or negotiation, expecting weakness. Instead, they had awakened a force that could not be ignored. The message sent from Earth to the Coalition and the Empire remained simple. "Mercy has a price. We are coming." And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy began to fear the humans, not because they were cruel, but because they were unstoppable. The first part of the story ends with the human fleets moving silently toward occupied space. Small but resilient, they are a storm gathering on the horizon. The galaxy watches, uncertain, but the humans know their purpose. They will protect the innocent. They will challenge the mighty, and they will prove once again that underestimating humanity is a grave mistake. The human fleets moved silently through the cold, black emptiness of space. Stars streaked past like distant fireflies, but no one aboard the ships relaxed. Every officer, every soldier, every pilot understood that this journey was unlike anything Earth had faced before. The humans who sailed these ships were not merely warriors. They were a different kind of soldier, shaped by centuries of survival on a harsh planet. Their bodies were strong, their minds sharp, and their teamwork unshakable. They had trained for years, not for glory or conquest, but for endurance. Every drill, every exercise, every simulated battle had taught them the same lesson: failure was not an option. Captain Mara Vey of the Starship Sentinel stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the Kyler-controlled sector ahead. Her jaw was firm, her eyes steady. "Sensors report light activity near the colony on Yalora 5, she said. "No major fleet presence. Small patrols only. That means our approach will be noticed soon. Prepare the teams. Keep civilian evacuation a priority." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Eric Tan, nodded. "All drones are ready, Captain. Our engineers have prepped the transport ships for immediate evacuation if needed. Weapons are online. Medics are standing by." Mara gave a small nod. "Good. Remember, we do not destroy what we can protect. Our mission is to save, not to conquer. But if they fight, we will not stop." The humans approached Yalora 5 slowly, deliberately. The Kyler patrol ships detected them almost immediately. Alien sensors pinged the approaching fleet, and alarms blared in the command centers of Yalora 5's small outposts. Officers shouted orders, trying to understand what a handful of Earth ships could mean. "They cannot be serious," said Commander Thalric of the Kyler patrol fleet. "Their numbers are insignificant. They have no experience. They cannot hope to succeed." But the humans were ready. Small, nimble strike crafts launched from the larger vessels. Each craft carried a specialized team: pilots trained for precision maneuvers, engineers who could repair or hack enemy systems mid-flight, and combat specialists capable of moving quickly across alien terrain. The first engagement was subtle. Human drones disabled the patrol ships' communications, leaving them unable to call for reinforcements. When the alien ships attempted to fire on the human vessels, targeting systems suddenly malfunctioned. Engineers aboard the humans' craft had hacked the alien systems remotely, showing the precision and speed of Earth's technology. On Yalora 5 itself, evacuation began quietly. Civilians were moved from the cities to transport ships, while the Kyler soldiers were distracted by the humans' precise attacks on communication and supply lines. No unnecessary destruction occurred. Hospitals were avoided, schools were untouched, and marketplaces remained unharmed. Human soldiers moved like shadows on the surface. They carried no hatred for the Kyler soldiers, even when facing fire. Their goal was clear: protect life, disable control, and minimize casualties whenever possible. They had learned from history that fear alone could be more powerful than death. In one small town, a young human medic named Tessacor worked alongside her team to help civilians escape. She moved quickly through the streets, carrying supplies and guiding frightened families. Alien patrols fired indiscriminately, but Tessa and her team used stealth, misdirection, and the terrain to their advantage. A small barrier of human shields blocked patrols just long enough for families to reach the evacuation points. "Keep moving," she whispered. "We're here." "You're safe with us?" Tessa's calm courage inspired not just the civilians, but her fellow soldiers. Humans had a way of spreading determination through their actions. It was a quality that other species rarely understood. While the Kyler relied on technology and brute force, humans relied on creativity, endurance, and unity. Captain Mara observed the operations from orbit, coordinating strikes and rescues. "Good work, all teams," she said over the comms. "Continue to prioritize civilians. Our goal is to liberate, not to kill. Keep the patrols distracted and cut their communications. Make them see humans as unpredictable, not weak." Meanwhile, the Kyler commanders grew increasingly frustrated. They had faced countless civilizations, each believing their technology and numbers would be enough. Every time, they crushed resistance with overwhelming force. But Earth's warriors were different. They adapted to every trap, countered every strategy, and struck in ways the Kyler could not predict. "Impossible," Commander Thalric muttered. "They are small, and yet their timing, their patience, it is not like anything we have ever seen." The humans had taught themselves to survive disasters, to endure extreme climates, and to rebuild quickly after tragedy. On Earth, floods, earthquakes, and storms had trained them to improvise, to stay calm under pressure, and to never give up. These lessons carried over to the battlefield in space. On Yalora 5, one of the small towns became a proving ground for human ingenuity. A group of human engineers, led by Lieutenant Eric, discovered that the Kyler patrols relied heavily on automated turrets along the roads. Eric's team used small, camouflaged drones to disable the turrets quietly. When the Kyler soldiers attempted to engage, they found their defenses useless. The humans moved faster than the aliens expected, evacuating civilians and avoiding direct combat wherever possible. At the same time, human fighters in orbit disabled key supply convoys. Ships carrying ammunition, fuel, and reinforcements were intercepted and rerouted harmlessly into safe zones. Humans were careful not to destroy the cargo entirely. They simply made it inaccessible to the Kyler. Every move sent a clear message. Earth's warriors were clever, patient, and capable of outthinking the enemy. Word of these actions spread quickly. Alien civilians, terrified of the Kyler, began to whisper stories of humans who fought without hatred, who protected innocents even in the heat of battle, and who seemed impossible to defeat. "They are not like anyone we know," one Kyler civilian said quietly. "They are stronger than they appear." The humans did not stop to celebrate. Every victory was temporary. Every system cleared only revealed another challenge. Mara knew that the Kyler would soon send reinforcements, larger fleets, and more aggressive attacks. Humans had to stay ahead. They had to remain unpredictable. On the surface of Yalora 5, Tessacor and her team reached the final evacuation point. A group of Kyler soldiers had cornered a group of refugees in a narrow canyon. Tessa assessed the situation and acted quickly. Using a combination of smoke, light-emitting devices, and small engineered barriers, her team created the illusion of reinforcements where there were none. The Kyler soldiers hesitated, allowing civilians to escape safely. One of the soldiers, a young Kyler officer, approached Tessa with confusion and anger. "Why are you helping them?" he demanded. Tessa met his gaze calmly. "Because it is right. Your fight is not ours. These people are innocent. If you wanted them harmed, that is your choice." "We choose to protect life." The officer stumbled back, unable to comprehend such reasoning. Humans did not seek revenge. They did not fight for pride. They fought for what they believed was just. As the day ended, human forces regrouped. Ships returned to orbit, drones were recovered, and teams shared reports of success and challenges. Every soldier understood the significance of their actions. They were not just defending a world. They were proving to the galaxy that humanity could not be underestimated. Captain Mara reviewed the operations. "We have shown them what we can do," she said. "But this is only the beginning. The Kyler will not let this go. We must prepare for what comes next. Every system we save today strengthens our position tomorrow. Every life we protect is a message. Earth does not yield." In distant parts of the Kyler Empire, reports of human actions reached the Central Command. Leaders were stunned. A species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant had struck with precision and intelligence. They had not destroyed unnecessarily. They had protected, calculated, and endured. "Humans," one commander said aloud, almost in disbelief. "They are not like any enemy we have faced. We must reconsider our approach." Back on Earth, in quiet observation rooms, families and scientists watched the footage with a mixture of awe and worry. The humans who had gone into space were their children, siblings, and neighbors. Yet they acted with a calm courage that inspired everyone who watched. "They are not just warriors," one teacher whispered. "They are something more. They are humans." As night fell on Earth, Captain Mara stood on the observation deck of the Sentinel, gazing out at the stars. She knew the path ahead would be more dangerous. Larger fleets, faster ships, and more determined enemies would soon arrive. But she also knew one truth that could never be taken away. Humans were not afraid to endure. Humans were not afraid to adapt. Humans were not afraid to fight for what was right. And that would make all the difference. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was beginning to understand something fundamental. Humans were not weak. They were not passive. They were warriors unlike any other species had ever faced. And when Earth chose to act, it acted with precision, endurance, and a deep respect for life. The coalition of worlds that had sent the message asking for mercy watched in awe. "We thought they would beg," Ambassador Laren said quietly. "We thought they would negotiate. We did not expect this." Earth's response, calm and deliberate, had changed everything. Humans were no longer outsiders. They were a force that even the mighty Kyler Empire could not ignore. And the humans themselves, tired but unwavering, prepared for the next phase. They had shown what they could do in small engagements, protecting innocents while striking where necessary. But larger battles lay ahead. They would face the true might of the Kyler Empire soon enough. Still, the humans were ready. The Kyler Empire had underestimated humanity. That mistake would cost them dearly. The humans' success on Yalora 5 had spread quickly through the Empire's communication networks. Alien leaders had dismissed Earth for centuries, calling humans fragile and primitive. But after Yalora 5, the whispers changed. Some called it luck, others called it cunning. Most felt a growing unease, a realization that humans were nothing like any enemy they had ever faced. Captain Mara Vey and her fleet continued their advance into occupied space. Their mission was no longer just rescue. It was liberation. Every system they approached was mapped and studied. Patrol patterns, supply routes, and command stations were observed, recorded, and analyzed. The humans understood something their enemies did not. Knowledge was as powerful as weapons. "Captain," Lieutenant Eric Tan reported from the bridge of the Sentinel, "we've identified 3 major supply hubs along the Kyler corridor to Narith. Their defenses are strong but predictable. We could strike and disrupt all 3 within 2 standard cycles." Myra nodded thoughtfully. "Good, but we will strike in sequence, not all at once. Let them see movement, think we are small, and then hit the one they least expect. Keep evacuation teams ready. Protect civilians first. The Kyler will retaliate, but we cannot let panic guide our actions." The first major engagement was near the planet Narith. It was a bustling hub, rich in resources and heavily guarded. The humans approached cautiously, sending small reconnaissance drones first. These drones were equipped with sensors and advanced hacking software. Within hours, humans had mapped the planet's defenses in detail. Kyler commanders watched the approach of the human fleet with disdain. "Small ships," one said. "Few soldiers, pathetic. They will flee once they see our power." But humans did not flee. Their strike was methodical. First, drones disabled communications and turrets. Then, a small team of human engineers, soldiers, and medics landed on the planet's surface. They moved with precision, splitting into multiple squads, each assigned a specific task: secure civilian zones, disable enemy control stations, and protect strategic points. The Kyler soldiers expected chaos. They expected terror. Instead, they found humans moving calmly through streets, using misdirection and clever tactics to evade superior firepower. Civilians were guided to safety, and key control stations were neutralized without destruction. "Impossible," one Kyler officer muttered. "They are not afraid. They are coordinated even when under fire." The humans had learned early that fear could be a weapon, but patience and unity were stronger. They did not charge blindly into battle. They adapted to every obstacle. When automated defenses fired, engineers hacked them. When enemy patrols blocked a route, soldiers created diversions. When civilians were trapped, medics and fighters worked together to clear paths. Above the planet, human pilots executed aerial maneuvers that left Kyler ships scrambling. Small fighters moved in tight formations, striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could organize a counterattack. Larger ships provided support, launching drones and creating temporary shields to protect evacuation corridors. Every move was precise, efficient, and unexpected. On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Eric's squad faced a Kyler commander determined to stop them. The aliens had the advantage in numbers and weapons, but the humans had adaptability. Eric analyzed the terrain and the enemy's formation. Using small, improvised barricades, smoke devices, and light decoys, his squad forced the aliens into a narrow canyon. The Kyler soldiers could not move freely, and the humans used the terrain to their advantage. "Keep pushing," Eric whispered. "We have the high ground. Focus on disabling, not killing. Protect the civilians at all costs." By nightfall, Narith was largely under human control. The Kyler had suffered unexpected losses, not from brute force but from strategy. Alien soldiers were confused, civilians were evacuated, and critical supply routes were cut. Captain Myra received a report from her reconnaissance team. "The Kyler are organizing a counterattack. They are bringing reinforcements from nearby systems. Estimated arrival less than 2 cycles. Mara's expression did not change. Then we prepare. We have already shown them humans are not easy prey. Now we must show them we are unstoppable. Humans worked tirelessly. Engineers repaired damaged ships mid-battle. Soldiers trained in multiple disciplines switched roles as needed. Pilots flew multiple sorties without rest. Medics treated both humans and aliens injured in the conflict. The humans' unity and adaptability were unmatched. Kyler commanders were in disbelief. Their previous enemies had been predictable. They had relied on force, intimidation, and punishment. Humans relied on something different: intelligence, endurance, and empathy. These qualities, combined with human ingenuity, made them unpredictable and terrifying. In the orbital command center, human officers planned the next phase. "We will strike the Kyler supply hub at Varnath next," Mara said, "but we will do it in a way they cannot anticipate. Divide their attention, mislead them, and then hit decisively. Prepare drones, fighters, and boarding teams. Evacuation teams must be ready. Civilians first always." When the humans launched their attack, it was almost surgical. A small fleet moved in multiple directions, drawing enemy ships away from the primary target. Drones infiltrated defense systems, cutting communications and disabling turrets. Boarding teams struck key facilities, shutting down supply depots and command hubs. Meanwhile, evacuation teams secured civilians. The Kyler were caught off guard. They had expected fear, chaos, and surrender. Instead, they found calm, coordinated, and relentless humans. Every plan the Kyler made was countered by human adaptability. Every strike humans executed was precise, conserving resources while maximizing impact. Alien commanders began to realize that Earth's warriors were unlike any enemy they had faced. They were not driven by anger or revenge, but by strategy, patience, and a sense of justice. Humans did not seek conquest. They sought to protect life while dismantling oppression. On one Varnath street, a small group of human soldiers encountered a Kyler patrol unit. The humans had fewer numbers and weapons, but they had coordination. Using terrain, decoys, and their knowledge of the environment, they outmaneuvered the patrol, capturing several soldiers without firing a single shot. The captured aliens were treated fairly, given food, water, and medical care. "Why do you help us?" one alien asked. A human medic, smiling faintly, replied, "Because it is right. We fight to protect life, not to destroy it." Word of human actions spread quickly. Across the Kyler Empire, civilians whispered stories of humans who protected the weak, fought strategically, and seemed impossible to defeat. Alien soldiers began to fear not just the humans' weapons, but their ingenuity, endurance, and unity. The humans' reputation grew with every engagement. By the end of the cycle, Nareth and Varnath were largely liberated. Supply lines were crippled, civilians were safe, and the Kyler had suffered heavy losses without the humans ever resorting to unnecessary destruction. Captain Mara addressed her fleet. "We have shown what humans can do when we act together. The Kyler will respond, and the next battles will be harder. But remember, our strength is not just our weapons. It is our unity, our endurance, and our sense of what is right. Protect life. Fight smart, adapt, and we will succeed," Lieutenant Arik added. "We have proven that even when outnumbered and outgunned, humans can overcome. We do not seek glory, we seek justice." As human fleets prepared for the next mission, alien leaders began to panic. They had underestimated humans once. They could not afford to underestimate them again. Humans had introduced something entirely new into the galaxy, a species that combined endurance, intelligence, creativity, and compassion. A species that could survive impossible odds and still protect life. The coalition of worlds that had sent the plea for mercy watched in awe. "We asked for help," Ambassador Laren said quietly, "but this is beyond anything we imagined. Earth did not just respond, they led. They fought, they protected, they changed everything." The Kyler Empire, once confident and untouchable, now faced a species that refused to yield. The humans had shown that strength was not measured by numbers or weapons alone, but by determination, adaptability, and the willingness to protect what was right. And the humans were far from finished. They had only begun. The Kyler Empire had grown arrogant over centuries. Their fleets had crushed world after world, and their leaders believed no species could ever challenge them. But Earth had changed that perception. Every engagement had proven humans were unlike any enemy the galaxy had seen before. Reports from Nareth and Varnath reached the central Kyler command. Entire supply hubs had been disabled, key patrols captured or neutralized. Civilians had been evacuated without unnecessary deaths. Every loss was calculated, every victory precise. And yet the humans had done it with a calm efficiency that unnerved the Kyler more than any attack ever could. Supreme Commander Thalric summoned his council. The room was tense, filled with alien leaders who had never faced defeat of this scale. "What is happening?" Thalric demanded. "We were strong, our fleets outnumber theirs 10-1. How can a species so small, so weak, defeat us at every turn?" One of his advisors, trembling slightly, spoke. "They're soldiers, they are unlike any others, they do not fear death. They adapt to every situation, they protect civilians even while fighting, and their technology, it is unpredictable. They fight with precision and strategy we cannot anticipate." Thalric slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Enough! They cannot continue like this. Send the fleets, crush them before they reach our core systems." Orders were sent, massive fleets mobilized, and the Kyler prepared to strike back with overwhelming force. They believed the humans would retreat under such pressure. They assumed fear would guide Earth's response. But humans were ready. Captain Mara Vey had anticipated this. While Kyler fleets gathered, humans had already prepared defensive positions, ambush points, and secondary evacuation routes. Their fleets were nimble and adaptable, trained to endure, improvise, and counter overwhelming force. In orbit above the Kyler-controlled system of Drellies, Myra addressed her fleet. "They believe we will falter under numbers. We will show them that humans do not falter. We fight for justice. We fight to protect life. We fight together and we will prevail." Lieutenant Eric Tan added, "Prepare for their strike. Our drones will disrupt their communications. Our fighters will divide their fleets. Boarding teams will neutralize key command ships. Medics and engineers will be ready. This is not just war. It is strategy, intelligence, and endurance combined." When the Kyler fleets arrived, they expected chaos. They expected terror. Instead, they found calm, coordinated human defenses. Drones struck first, cutting communications and targeting navigation systems. Human fighters moved in unpredictable patterns, striking quickly and retreating before the aliens could respond. Boarding teams executed surgical strikes on key Kyler ships, disabling engines and weapons without causing unnecessary destruction. Engineers repaired damaged human ships mid-battle, keeping the fleet operational against overwhelming odds. Medics moved through battle zones, treating both humans and captured Kyler soldiers. The Kyler commanders were in disbelief. How do they continue? Their numbers are too small, their resources are too limited, and yet they do not falter. On the planet below, humans continued to evacuate civilians from urban centers. Lieutenant Arik led his team through streets filled with alien patrols. They moved with speed, precision, and coordination. Small barricades, light decoys, and clever distractions allowed them to outmaneuver enemies far stronger in numbers. At one moment, a young human soldier named Lyra Kor found herself cornered by a Kyler patrol. Her squad had been separated, and escape seemed impossible. But Lyra remained calm. Using a combination of terrain and distraction devices, she led the patrol into a narrow canyon where boarding teams could ambush them safely. The patrol was captured without a single human casualty. Back in orbit, Captain Mara monitored the battle. "Every move counts," she said. "We do not destroy what we can protect. We fight smart, not recklessly. Remember, patience and precision win more than fear or force." The Kyler Empire began to panic. Their assumption that humans were weak had shattered. Each engagement revealed human ingenuity, endurance, and morality. Civilians who had been trapped under Kyler occupation were freed. Strategic hubs were neutralized. Fleet formations were disrupted. And humans did all this while minimizing casualties and preserving infrastructure. Finally, the Kyler leaders realized that force alone would not win this war. Humanity was not an enemy to be intimidated. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. The Empire had underestimated them at every turn. Supreme Commander Thalric sent a message to Earth. It was brief and urgent. "We surrender, spare us, negotiate terms, we will comply." The human response was calm, measured. President Kale's voice, transmitted across the void, spoke clearly. "We do not seek conquest. We do not seek revenge. You will face consequences for your actions, but there will be mercy if you act justly. Prepare to meet our terms." Kyler commanders stared at the transmission, confused. We surrendered, and yet we do not understand." Captain Mara and her fleet prepared to enforce Earth's terms. Their message was clear: the Kyler would not dictate conditions. Humans would determine how justice and mercy were applied. Boarding teams moved onto surrendering vessels, carefully taking control without violence. Engineers ensured the ships were safe for operation. Medics tended to wounded soldiers, even as the humans secured strategic points. On the surface, Lieutenant Arik and his teams oversaw the evacuation and transition. Kyler soldiers who had surrendered were disarmed but treated with respect. Civilians were given food, water, and medical attention. The humans ensured that life could continue, even in systems once dominated by the Kyler Empire. Ambassador Laren and the Coalition watched in awe. "We asked for mercy," he said quietly, "but Earth has done more than we imagined. They liberated worlds, protected life, and imposed justice. They are extraordinary." The Kyler leaders, humbled and fearful, complied. They removed oppressive command structures and agreed to allow liberated systems to govern themselves. Humans oversaw the transition carefully, ensuring fairness while maintaining security. They did not stay as rulers. Their goal was not power, it was protection. Captain Mara addressed her fleet after the final surrender was confirmed. "We have shown that humans are not to be underestimated, but remember, our fight is not over. We have liberated systems, yes, but vigilance is still necessary. Protect life. Maintain order. Prepare for the next challenge. Humanity has proven its strength, but we cannot be complacent." Lieutenant Arik added, "We have achieved more than anyone expected. We fought not out of hatred, but with intelligence, endurance, and moral courage. This is the way humans fight, and why the galaxy will never see us as weak again." Word of Earth's warriors spread across the galaxy. Civilizations that had once dismissed humans as primitive began to rethink their assumptions. Reports told of human fleets moving with precision, of soldiers who protected civilians while neutralizing enemy forces, of medics who treated both allies and enemies. Humans had introduced a new standard of warfare, one that combined strategy, endurance, and morality. The Kyler Empire, once feared for its power and cruelty, had been humbled. They had begged for mercy and received it, but only on Earth's terms. Human leaders ensured that surrender was enforced fairly while still respecting life. The galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. A small, underestimated species from a remote world had not only survived, but had reshaped the balance of power. Back on Earth, families and leaders celebrated quietly, not with extravagance, but with a sense of pride and relief. Humanity had acted as a guardian, a warrior, and a moral force. The galaxy now knew, when mercy is ignored, humans respond with strength and intelligence, and the Kyler Empire had learned a lesson it would never forget. Supreme Commander Thalric and his remaining officers understood, too late, that force alone could not conquer humans. A species that endured, adapted, and fought for what was right could never be dismissed. The Kyler would rebuild, yes, but they would never again underestimate Earth or its warriors. As human fleets returned to their bases to rest and resupply, Captain Mara stood on the bridge of the Sentinel, staring at the stars. She knew that challenges would continue. The galaxy was vast and threats would always arise, but she also knew that humans had shown their strength, not just through weapons, but through courage, strategy, and the unwavering desire to protect life. Lieutenant Arik approached her. "The Kyler have surrendered. We've done what we came to do. What now?" Mara smiled faintly. "Now we watch, we ensure justice is maintained, and we remind the galaxy that humans do not yield, humans endure, and humans protect those who cannot protect themselves." The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as warriors, thinkers, and guardians. They had shown that strength came not only from weapons, but from unity, intelligence, and moral courage. And the galaxy would never forget it. The humans' legacy was clear. They fought for what was right, endured the impossible, and emerged not just victorious, but respected, feared, and admired. The message spread far and wide. When mercy is ignored, Earth sends its warriors, and they do not fail.